What's going on, guys? My name is Perky, and today I'm bringing you a review of the game Nether. That's on Steam right now. There's a version that's $20, a version that's $30, and a version that's $50. And the more expensive versions just give you Nether Gold, which lets you buy cosmetic items to separate yourself from the rest of the crew. It's really helpful to have that Nether Gold, though, of course, to blend in with your teammates so you don't shoot each other. But if you don't feel like spending that extra money, it might not be worth it to you. Now, Nether is, of course, a survival game, much like DayZ and Rust, but each of these survival games brings their own thing to the table. What Nether has going on is monsters, which are called Nether, of course, very creative naming, and these monsters do something that no other monsters in any game that I've ever seen do. And that's teleportation. These Nether monsters will sense you in some way, and then they'll start teleporting to you. And once they're around you, they'll fight you for a little bit, and then they'll teleport and pop up in some random location around you, which is a really interesting aspect to the game, something that really throws a curveball at you, because you're not sure where they're going to show up, you're not sure how you're going to be able to avoid these monsters, especially since they're teleporting at you, which is really, really cool. Now, the most basic objective of the game is to survive. You're supposed to survive from Nether, you're supposed to survive from players, of course players being the more real threat, but especially when you're lower leveled and not very well geared up, Nether can still pose a very extreme threat to you, so you have to watch out for that. Now, Nether is, of course, an early release, so it's still very, very buggy. The developers have been really good about pumping out patches for this, though. They've been really good at paying attention to the community and what they want, and there's actually a community section where you can tell where things were directly taken from that section and put into the game. You can see what the developers are doing. They really do keep in contact with us, the gamers, very well, which is, of course, very nice to see. Now, I'd like to move on to some pros and cons here. Now, the first thing in the pros is the atmosphere. I love the way they made it very post-apocalyptic, very intense, very risk-feeling. You feel like you're putting yourself at risk when you're playing the game. You get really immersed and really into the scenario, very into it. And I love that. I think they did a great job with that. They did a great job with item scarcity, knowing that you have to find the weapons and you have to find the food to survive, all the while dodging players and Nether alike. That's the nice thing, is that you have to decide who to trust. You know, it could be that you're rolling with a guy from the safe zone. There are a couple safe zones, by the way, so that you can relax and take a deep breath and buy things. But you never know who you can trust. You never know if maybe you meet a friend in the safe zone, and you go out and you find some weapons, and suddenly he's going to put a bullet in the back of your head. You never know if that's going to be the case. That's something that you always have to be on your toes about, something you always have to be careful of. And on that note, another thing that I really like about the game is that it gives you an option to choose your playstyle. You can either be a bandit, kill and take what you want, or you can be a lawman and you could, you know, kill bandits. Or you could be neutral and kill whenever it tickles your fancy, you know, whenever you want to. You can play how you want. You can do what you want. You can shoot anyone. Friendly fire is always on, and it's a very risk-taking game, and I like that a lot. Now, I keep talking about these risks, but I haven't spoken about the skill tree yet. There's a skill tree with a bunch of different traits, all of which will help you survive. Some will increase gun damage, some will increase, you know, melee damage, some will increase how much band-aids heal. And you get a point per level, with the max level being 31. And when you die, you lose all of those levels. So you have to be extremely careful, because not only are you losing your gear, but you're losing your levels too. Now, some of the gear can be stored in the global inventory, but all those levels are going to be gone. And I personally have always been a sucker for gaining levels and skill trees. That's always been something that really draws me in. So being able to change my skill tree every time I die, that's something that'll really hook me, and I like that a lot in this game. And they're working on changing that whole system, so I can't wait to see what they're bringing out next. Now, there are, of course, a few cons. It's an early access game, so you can't really expect it to be perfect. There are a lot of bugs. I mean, you're glitching through a lot of different things. Sometimes you get stuck in places in the landscape, and they're working on sorting those out in each different patch. So it's really going to come down to some patience for that. I'm not too worried about that. I'm sure they're going to sort it out by the final release. One of the major cons that I think about for this game is the end game goal. What do you do at the end? You're all farmed up with all this loot. You've got all these levels. What do you do other than kill other players? There's no reason to kill the Nether and gain levels. You can't build anything yet. They're working on adding that, but you can't build anything yet. So what do you do with all of this stuff? And the answer is PvP. That's all there is to do. That's one of those things where I love the game, I love surviving, I love getting to level 31, but once I get to level 31, boom, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and it comes down to me hopping onto the most populated servers with a bunch of other people who are also level 31 and just trying to kill them. That's what the end game ends up being. And if that's not your style, if you don't like survival deathmatch where you have a lot to lose at all times, maybe this game isn't for you. If you do enjoy deathmatch, if you do enjoy surviving while other people are trying to play a deathmatch game, then yeah, this is a great game, but kill on sight is very prevalent in this game. Kill on sight is one of those things that a lot of people struggle with in survival games especially. I do enjoy this game though, I'm not gonna lie, I've put 95 hours into it, I have purchased the $30 version of the game, and I would definitely recommend it if you like some kill on sight bandit style gameplay. They're working on bringing out a lot of new stuff, you might want to wait until then to pick this up, but for now, definitely something that I think you should consider. I hope you guys enjoyed the review today. If you did, make sure you click that like button, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.